Aloha Hawaii, this is Pokalai Nui and you are listening to Hawaiian Potpourri. We are produced by the Hawaiian National Broadcast Corporation. The time now is 4:35 on the 14th day of July in the year 2012. Welcome back to the program. We had just completed the first half hour of this program and we were talking about Bain Capital as well as the Affordable Care Act. We're going to stick a little bit more or stay with the issues in the American public, and what is happening there is a lot of discussion going on with regards to the presidential election. The next item that is of great interest is one's approach to taxation and how the expenses of government should be paid or shared, or should it be shared among the many possibilities. Should the distribution of responsibility to carry the cost of government be in accordance with the amount of wealth that individuals have, and should they pay according to their abilities, or should they pay according to on a per capita basis, that is, each person being allocated a particular sum of money to pay irrespective of their inherent wealth? Or should they pay based on the amount of services they receive from the government, sort of like being surcharged for the services that you receive? So if you have 3 kids and you're sending them to school, you pay in accordance with the number of children that you are having educated by the government. And so you parcel out for each service the government is providing, you pay according to that service. Is that an appropriate way for government in a democratic society operate? And if that's the case, then the poor would not be able to send their kids to get an education, so there would be very little, if any, mobility within the society. I think generally people are not even proposing this idea of pay in accordance with your use of services. So they've gotten beyond that. But once you step beyond that, then what do you have? Do you have a socialist system in which the government comes in and sort of socializes education and socializes medicine, so that you don't pay in accordance with your need for medicine, but you generally get a set amount of basic care, and that is paid by the whole society, and everyone will chip in according to what the government sets? Then you get back to that earlier policy of, well, then what is the contribution of each person? Should it be according to your ability to pay? So if you have a person who has a general income of $1 million, then you pay at a higher rate as you elevate your income rate. So people making, let's say, $10,000 a year, let's say they pay at 1%. People making $20,000 would pay at 1% of the first $10,000, and the next $10,000 they may pay, let's say, 2%, or some graduated amount, so that as you get to the higher amounts, your amount increases in terms of percentage with regards to that higher amount. So in essence, this is what the Obama administration is proposing, that those who are able to pay at a higher amount, and of course my 1%, 2% rates are not accurate because that's not what they're saying, but they are applying that same principle. On the other hand, the Republicans are saying, well, we don't agree with the principle. We believe that those who are making a lot of money should keep their money, because they are the ones who will create the jobs, and it is jobs that are needed in the society today to make the economy move. So they are following a different political philosophy, a different economic philosophy as to what will make the society move. But oftentimes people are saying, well, you still have to deal with the reality. You still have to deal with the facts. Although the theory may sound good, and we got sold that line from the Reagan administration. It's called the Trickle-Down Theory, that as you increase the wealth of the very wealthy, then they will be able to lift all boats. And what you find is that, well, the very wealthy are not investing in the general economy. And so they continue to get wealthier and wealthier and wealthier and not making the contribution. And as you can see, while they are getting extremely wealthy, the basic economy goes kaput. And it's not only because of their lack of contribution into the taxing system, but it's also because of their manipulation of the rules and regulations and their avoidance and their stealing from the business deals that they make. And now we have more discovery of more business deals, like what is called a Libor rate, and it actually comes out of Britain, but it's where the finagling of interest rates are being done so that the rich continue to get richer and the middle folks and the poor folks are the ones who suffer. So it is a question of what is the appropriate tax policy. And I think if we try to simplify and read past the statements by your presidential candidates or campaigns, one can really get to understand what is happening. So that's the second issue that seems to be circulating within the presidential campaign. Again, let me announce that if you would like to call and discuss any of these matters, our telephone number here is 524-1080. Give me a call. We'll put you on the radio and see what you think about any of these matters. Okay, in terms of broader American discussions, I was going to move the discussion or just jump on something else. Because there isn't really a discussion, nobody else is calling in. On one hand, it gives me the opportunity to address whatever I decide is of import in my review of issues before us. And on the other hand, you may or may not like the direction I'm taking the discussion. But all I can say is too bad. You can call and join in the discussion and try to address one or another of these issues. Our telephone number here is 524-1080 if you would like to call. And we'll put you on the radio and see what you have to say about these things. Another article that comes to my attention, which just came out of this morning's newspaper, and that's at page A3. There has been an audit. There has been an audit of the war in Iraq, and it fails to pinpoint the exact sum that has been wasted in Iraq. They say they just don't know. It's hard to figure. Go figure. The year of following the paper trail of $51 billion in U.S. taxpayer dollars provided to rebuild a broken Iraq, the U.S. government can say with certainty that too much was wasted, but it can't say how much. In what it called its final audit report, the Office of the Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction Funds on Friday spelled out a range of accounting weaknesses that put, quote, billions of American taxpayer dollars at risk of waste and misappropriation in the largest reconstruction project of its kind in U.S. history. The precise amount lost to fraud and waste can never be known, the report said. The auditors found huge problems accounting for the huge sums, but one small example of failure stood out. A contractor got away with charging $80 for a pipe fitting that its competitor was selling for $1.41. Why? The company's billing documents were reviewed sloppily by U.S. contracting officers or were not reviewed at all. Maybe they were reviewed, The officer, after retirement, was found to have been very rich. That's probably what the case is, being paid off by these crooks and cheats involved in making a lot of money and probably not paying very much, if any, taxes as they went along. And this is the kinds of stuff that has been occurring, and yet that's protection of the American interest. Blackwater is involved in these kinds of stuff, and all of these other contractors who have been making virtually a killing out of war. And it's the common people who are being led by the nose, just like the German citizens, the average German citizen who was being manipulated and taken for a ride. Well, the German citizen's excuse was, well, we just didn't know, and so we should be absolved of any responsibility. The Nuremberg principles developed out of the trial after the war, or the Second World War ended, stood for the principle that, no, you are responsible. It is your responsibility to be informed and to take a position and to try to stop the inhumanities that were occurring. And for the American people, it's the same thing. You need to speak up and say something and not just let these things go by. All right. Telephone number again, 524-1080. Give me a call. We'll put you on the radio. The next issue is this Libor. What in the world is Libor? It's known as the biggest scandal you'll never understand, according to Froma Harrop, or Harrop, H-A-R-R-O-P. She writes in the editorial page for this morning in the Star Advertiser at page A11. She says, if only 1 in 4 American adults can name his or her U.S. senator, we can assume that even fewer know what Libor is. L-I-B-O-R, pronounced Libor, is at the center of another major financial scandal, but that may not improve its name recognition much. This is summer, after all, and making sense of financial manipulation requires effort. The public should understand that what they don't know can cost them. The illegal fixing of Libor, the interest rate to which much of the world's financial transactions are tied, took a ton of money out of ordinary folks' pockets and handed it to the select few. The beauty of such cons is that the little people don't even know they're being fleeced. Libor stands for the London Interbank Offered Rate. It's the interest rate banks charge each other for big loans. The British Banking Association is supposed to oversee it, but apparently did not notice that Barclays was submitting falsely lower rates, probably to make its financial position look stronger. More than a dozen other banks are said to have been in on the fun. We've been subject to shocking financial scandals in recent years, but some experts are calling this one the worst. Still, what exactly does Libor have to do with you and me? If banks set the Libor rate artificially low, then they could pay the cities and states that entered financial contracts with them less than these governments were entitled to. Such shortfalls are traditionally made up by the taxpayers or through cuts in services. Hedge funds entering future contracts tied to Libor rates were cheated as well. Libor is also used to set the interest rates we pay on our credit card and adjustable mortgages. The word Libor appears in the small print on the contracts that few of us read. If banks are manipulating can manipulate Libor downward to make themselves look healthier, what's to stop them from manipulating that rate higher to extract more money from the little people with credit card balances and mortgages? Not much, it would seem. So here's another example why accusing financial con artists of greed, dishonesty, or avarice is so fruitless. Let a higher power dwell on their character. The job for we earthlings is to regulate them without apology. This latest scandal should make that a done deal. But listen to the political conversation, in which Republicans portray the financial industry as an outpost of muscular free enterprise shackled by Washington's regulations. Clearly, it's the other way around. Wall Street is all over Washington. It extracts changes in the laws that let their billionaires pay taxes at lower rates than do their electricians and police. It often obtains lax rules that let the financiers gamble with money guaranteed by the taxpayer. The financial wizards' modern Gilded Age fortunes come courtesy of government, not despite it. And the way Wall Street makes governments do its bidding is to buy the politicians. The new freedom to pour money into politics without being linked to the contributions gives cover for buying more of the same. Foes of campaign finance reforms point to cases where a candidate that greatly outspent a competitor lost, and they do exist. But when you have a complex matter, Libor isn't like gay marriage, and a populace that has not engaged the mental gear into how such things really work. What's going to move their vote? The last political ad they heard? If the 2008 economic meltdown didn't make a compelling case for stiffening oversight of Wall Street and campaign finance, it's hard to know what would. One really does worry for the future of our democracy. So, it's a exclamation about the very bad situation, but still difficulty with understanding what Libor is all about. And there's a cartoon that perhaps explains it even more concisely and effectively than this article. It's a man flipping a coin, and he says essentially, heads I win, tails you lose. That's Libor. Okay. Telephone number here is 524-1080. If you would like to share a comment with regards to any of the comments I have shared, give me a call. We'll put you on the radio and see what you have to say about some of these matters. Okay. Other things in the national news, that's three of the things that I wanted to in particular bring to your attention. Now in the international arena, other things are also occurring. But before getting there, let's go to our telephone caller. Our telephone number is 524-1080, if in case you would like to call. Aloha caller, welcome to the program.
Hi, good afternoon, Polka. How are you this afternoon?
Fine. Good to hear you.
Good to hear your voice and your stimulating ideas once again.
Thank you.
One of the points that I heard you state in today's show was just a few minutes ago talking about the importance of the United States citizens to be aware of the sort of unprecedented corruption that has occurred in the rebuilding of Iraq.
Yes.
And, that is just one example of the many ways that United States citizens seem to either be willing to go along with a lot of knowledge about what's going on, or simply not caring in, a basically materialistically oriented society, so too busy with their own materials. But I think a large part of it, and I'd be interested after I ask two questions, what your response would be. I think that the majority of people in the United States don't read the newspapers, are not knowledgeable of government policies and the ways in which public funds are being stolen from the hands of the taxpayers. And I think there is a major problem with our public school systems. Mm-hmm. And, the major push has been these high-stakes testing. And many schools are either, just overtly or without saying much, helping students learn how to take tests.
Yes.
But the acquisition of knowledge that leads to critical thinking is something that many writers have indicated is a major threat to democracy, because the population does not understand the rudiments or differences between participatory democracy and representative democracy. And I remember as an educator myself reading a book by two authors named Gintes and Boles who talk about the hidden curriculum. And the hidden curriculum in the public schools is designed to condition children and adolescents so when they become adults, they have already by that time integrated three major skills that are necessary in a capitalist industrialized society. And one of the major tasks that children and teenagers have to be conditioned for is punctuality. So there is a very strict scheduling of classes when they begin and end, and there is a bell that rings, and if you're late to the next class, you get detention, and that's a form of negative reinforcement or punishment, so you will, again, be conditioned to learn how to be punctual, because after all, punctuality is an awful big part of our society in the workforce.
True.
The second point in the public schools is is making sure that students get conditioned to be able to perform repetitive, monotonous tasks, because the vast number of jobs in our society are not creative and inspiring. There are some jobs like that, but many of them, fast foods, manufacturing, a lot of labor, involves in doing very repetitive works that requires the person's psyche to become conditioned to not get frustrated or act out under those conditions.
Right.
And the third major role that schools play in our society is to condition people to accept arbitrary authority without question. So these are three major factors that are necessary to make sure that the status quo in a capitalist society is not challenged through dissent or critical thinking. And it appears that they're doing a masterful job of doing that, which can be seen in exactly what you said, and that is a lack of awareness. And there's not motivation to seek out information that will lead to a critical consciousness. And I wanted to point to public schools. I know it's a multifaceted dynamic. The lethargy of our citizenry, the apathy, and the tendency to be complicit by going along with people in authority figures. And I wanted to bring up those 3 points, and I'd be interested in hearing what your reaction is off the air.
Okay, and I'll get to that. We will be going to music and news, and then we'll start off in our next half hour on that question. Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Aloha. And yes, very interesting questions. We'll take a look at the so-called education system, and perhaps just by the misnomer of that system, it creates our ignorance or avoidance of analyzing what is really supposed to be an education system as compared to some of the difficulties we are having in the current system. This is Pokalai Nui, and you are listening to Hawaiian Potpourri. The opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of the staff and management of this radio station or of the Hawaiian National Broadcast Corporation, our sponsors.
la'anunu me ka paka. Pane mai Hawaii moku o ke ave, koku ana honoa o pilani, ka ko'o mai kaua I o mano, pa'apu me ke one o ka kuhi hewa. Aole a'e kau I ka pulima, maluna o ka pepa o ka enemi, po'ohui ai nā ku ai hewa, I ka pono sivila a o ke kanaka. Aole mākou e mina mina, I ka pu'u kala o ke au puni, ua lava